Picture a small fishing village on the northern shore of Galilee. The year is somewhere around 29 AD. A man is brought before Jesus, and he cannot walk. His legs are twisted, his body broken by years of suffering. The crowd watches, expecting the usual scene. They expect Jesus to place his hands on the man, to pray loudly, to call upon heaven with dramatic gestures. But that is not what happens. Instead, Jesus leans close to the paralyzed man and whispers a single question. A question so simple, so direct, that everyone who heard it was confused. He asks, "Do you want to be healed?" The man says yes. And then Jesus speaks 7 words, 7 specific words in a specific sequence. And the man stands instantly, completely. The twisted legs straighten, the atrophied muscles restore, and the crowd erupts in amazement. But here is what nobody noticed. Jesus used those same 7 words again, and again, and again. Every single time he healed someone, the same question followed by the same 7-word structure. It was not random. It was not spontaneous divine power. It was a method, a precise psychological and spiritual technology that worked the same way every single time. And the early church knew this. They documented it. They taught it. For nearly 300 years, Christians healed the sick using the exact same method Jesus demonstrated. Before you go anywhere else, subscribe to this channel right now, because what you are about to learn has been deliberately hidden from you. And the only way teachings like this survive is if people like you make sure they cannot be buried again. Hit subscribe, turn on notifications, and stay with me, because by the end of this video, you will understand exactly why the church stopped teaching the method that Jesus never failed with. The last recorded mass healing using the Jesus method happened in the year 312 AD. A Roman officer named Sebastianus gathered a group of early Christians in an underground chamber beneath the city. 11 people came to him that night, blind, crippled, diseased, desperate. Sebastianus was not a priest. He was not ordained. He had no official authority. But he had been taught the method by an elder who had learned it from a direct lineage going back to the apostles themselves. One by one, Sebastianus walked each person through the same process Jesus used. He asked the same question, he spoke the same 7-word structure, and one by one, every single person in that room was healed. All 11. Complete restoration. Word spread quickly, too quickly. Within weeks, Roman authorities heard rumors of a man performing miracles without the approval of the emerging institutional church. They arrested Sebastianus, interrogated him, demanded to know where he learned this power, and when he refused to stop teaching it, they executed him. But it was not the Romans who wanted him dead. It was the church bishops. Because by the year 325, when the Council of Nicaea gathered to standardize Christian doctrine, the method Jesus used had become a problem. A massive, uncontrollable problem. Think about it from their perspective. The church was no longer a scattered movement of believers. It was becoming an empire, an organization with hierarchy, with wealth, with political influence. And that organization depended on one critical element: dependency. People had to need the church. They had to need priests to intercede on their behalf. They had to need sacraments, rituals, buildings, and authority structures. But the Jesus method required none of that. It could be taught in minutes. It could be used by anyone. It worked in private homes, in fields, on roadsides. It required no institution, no ordination, no control. So the bishops made a decision. They would keep the stories of Jesus healing people. Those stories were too famous, too central to remove. But they would eliminate any documentation of how he did it. They would strip the method from the teaching and replace it with mystery, with divine intervention, with miracles that only special anointed individuals could access. And for 1700 years, that worked. Until now. Take a slow breath in through your nose, hold it for 3 seconds, now release it completely. Feel your chest fall. This is important because your nervous system needs to be calm for what comes next. The method Jesus used was not magic. It was not supernatural power available only to the Son of God. It was a reproducible psychological process rooted in how the human mind and body respond to belief, identity, and permission. Let me show you exactly how it worked. Every healing Jesus performed, and I mean every single one, followed the same structure. It starts with the question, do you want to be healed? Most people hear that question and think it is obvious. Of course, the sick person wants to be healed. Why else would they come to Jesus? But that question is not about gathering information. It is about activating agency. You see, the people who came to Jesus were not just physically sick, they were psychologically defeated. In first century Jewish culture, sickness was seen as punishment. If you were blind, lame, or diseased, the community assumed you or your parents had sinned. You were not just ill, you were guilty, ashamed, outcast. Your identity became the sickness. You stopped seeing yourself as a person who happens to be blind. You became the blind man. That was your name, your role, your entire existence. And the longer you carried that identity, the deeper it embedded into your neurology. Your brain built pathways around it. Your body adapted to it. So when Jesus asked, "Do you want to be healed?" he was doing something profound. He was separating the person from the condition. He was forcing the individual to choose in that moment whether they were ready to let go of the identity they had carried for years, sometimes decades. Because here is the secret the church does not want you to understand. Some people do not actually want to be healed, not because they enjoy suffering, but because their entire sense of self is built around the sickness. Their relationships are structured around it. Their purpose, their social role, their reason for receiving attention and care, all of it depends on staying sick. If that identity disappears, they do not know who they are anymore. The question forces a decision, and only when the person says yes, only when they give conscious permission, does Jesus move to the next step, the 7 words. This is the part that was systematically erased from church teaching. After the person agrees, after they say, "Yes, I want to be healed," Jesus speaks a sentence. The exact wording varies slightly depending on the translation, but the structure is always the same. 7 words: subject, action, result. In English, the most common form is, "Your faith has made you whole." 7 words. But the power is not in the words themselves. The power is in what those words do to the listener's brain. First, notice Jesus does not say, "I am healing you." He does not say, "God is healing you." He says, "Your faith has made you whole." He attributes the healing to the person, not to himself, not to an external deity. This is critical. By placing the source of healing inside the individual, Jesus bypasses the learned helplessness that keeps people trapped in sickness. He reframes the entire event. The person is not receiving a miracle from outside. They are activating something that was inside them all along. Second, notice the tense. Has made you whole. Not will make, not might make. Has made. Present perfect tense. The healing is already done. Not in the future, not conditional, already complete. This linguistic structure does something extraordinary to the subconscious mind. It eliminates doubt. It removes the gap between current reality and desired reality. The brain does not process the statement as a hope. It processes it as a fact, and the body responds accordingly. Third, notice the word whole. Not healed, not cured, whole. This word carries an entirely different psychological weight. Healing implies you were broken. Curing implies you were diseased. But wholeness implies you were always complete. The sickness was never your true state. It was a temporary disruption of your inherent completeness. And now you are returning to what you always were. These 7 words, delivered in this exact structure, create what modern psychologists would call a state change. In less than 3 seconds, the person's identity shifts from sick to whole. And the body, which is always listening to the identity you claim, begins reorganizing immediately. This is not faith healing in the way the church teaches it. This is not about believing hard enough in an external God. This is about the mind's ability to rewrite the body's programming when given the right linguistic command. The early church knew this. They taught it openly. But by the 4th century, that teaching had become too dangerous. Let me take you to the Council of Nicaea in the year 325. 318 bishops gathered in a palace in modern-day Turkey. Their official purpose was to settle disputes about the nature of Christ. But the real agenda, the one not written in the official records, was control. By this time, the Jesus method had spread across the Roman Empire. Ordinary Christians, slaves, farmers, merchants were healing each other in their homes. They did not need priests. They did not need churches. They were becoming self-sufficient, and the bishops watched their power eroding. So they made a decision that would shape Christianity for the next 17 centuries. They would declare that miracles could only be performed through official church authority. They would teach that healing was a gift given by God to special chosen vessels, not a method anyone could learn. And they would systematically remove any documentation that showed otherwise. The Gospel of Thomas was banned. The Gospel of Philip was banned. The Didache, one of the earliest Christian instructional manuals, was suppressed. Any text that described the method in practical terms was declared heretical, and the people who continued teaching it were hunted, not by Romans, by the church itself. Now let me show you something that will make this even clearer. In the Gospel of Mark, chapter 5, a woman who had been bleeding for 12 years touches the edge of Jesus' cloak, and immediately the text says she felt in her body that she was healed. Jesus turns around and asks who touched him. The woman comes forward, terrified, and admits it was her. And then Jesus says those 7 words, "Daughter, your faith has made you whole." Here's the question nobody asks. If she was already healed before Jesus spoke, why did he say anything at all? The answer reveals the entire method. The physical healing happened the moment her belief activated. But without the 7 words, without the linguistic anchoring, the healing would not have been permanent. The woman's subconscious mind would have doubted. It would have questioned. It would have reversed the healing within hours or days. The 7 words locked it in. They made the change permanent by giving the subconscious mind a story it could accept. This is why Jesus used the method every single time. Not because he needed to, because the people he healed needed the structure. They needed the question to activate agency. They needed the 7 words to anchor the change. And they needed the attribution to their own faith so they would not become dependent on him. Jesus was not trying to build a following of people who needed him to heal them. He was teaching a method that would make him unnecessary. By the year 400, the method was almost completely erased. The last known school teaching it was destroyed in Alexandria when Christian mobs burned the Great Library. Thousands of scrolls were lost. Among them were detailed instructions on the Jesus method, written by people who had learned it directly from the apostles. The church replaced the method with sacraments, with rituals, with the idea that only priests ordained through apostolic succession could channel divine power. And for over 1,000 years, that story held, until the printing press, until the Reformation, until people started reading the Bible for themselves and noticing something strange. The healings Jesus performed did not look like the healings the church described. They were not mysterious divine interventions. They followed a pattern, a structure, a method. And some people started asking the question the church had spent centuries trying to suppress. If Jesus taught his disciples to heal the sick, and if the early church healed the sick for 300 years, why did we stop? The official answer was always the same. The age of miracles ended. God stopped granting those gifts. But that answer never made sense. Why would God give humanity a tool for healing and then take it away? Unless, of course, it was not God who took it away. It was the institution that depended on keeping people helpless. Place your hand on your chest right now. Feel your heartbeat. That rhythm is proof that your body knows how to sustain itself without your conscious effort. Your heart beats. Your lungs breathe. Your cells regenerate. All of this happens automatically because your body has intelligence built into it. Now imagine that same intelligence applied to healing, not as a miracle, not as a supernatural event, but as a natural capacity that your body already has, waiting to be activated. The Jesus method works because it speaks directly to that intelligence. It bypasses the conscious mind, which is full of doubt and fear and learned limitations, and it gives the subconscious mind permission to do what it already knows how to do. Restore, regenerate, return to wholeness. This is not theology. This is biology. And the church knew it, but they could not allow you to know it. Because the moment you understand that the power to heal is not in a priest or a ritual or a building, the entire structure of religious control collapses. Let me show you how to use the method yourself. Not to replace medical treatment, not to avoid doctors, but to activate the same process Jesus demonstrated 2,000 years ago. Step 1 is the question. If you are dealing with sickness, pain, or disease, ask yourself out loud, do I want to be healed? Do not rush past this. Do not assume the answer. Sit with the question. Because if any part of you is attached to the identity of being sick, if any part of you is receiving something from the condition, fear, attention, avoidance of responsibility, that attachment will block the healing. You must choose, consciously, intentionally, out loud, say, yes, I want to be healed, and mean it completely. Step 2 is the 7 words. Once you have answered yes, place your hand on the area of sickness or pain and speak these 7 words out loud. My faith has made me whole. Not will make, not might make, has made. Present perfect tense. The healing is already done. You are not asking for it. You are declaring it. You are claiming it. You are anchoring it into your subconscious as a completed fact. Step 3 is the release. After you speak the 7 words, let it go. Do not monitor. Do not check every 5 minutes to see if it worked. Do not analyze or doubt. The method works in the subconscious, and the subconscious does not operate on your timeline. Trust the process and let your body do what it already knows how to do. Now let me tell you what to expect. The first sign is emotional. Within minutes, sometimes seconds, you may feel a wave of emotion. Not sadness, not pain, but relief, a sense of something lifting. That is the identity of sickness releasing. The second sign is physical. You may feel warmth, tingling, or a subtle shift in the area you placed your hand. That is the body reorganizing. That is the subconscious intelligence activating. The third sign is cognitive. Thoughts will come trying to convince you nothing happened. Thoughts telling you this is ridiculous. Thoughts urging you to doubt. Do not engage with them. Those thoughts are the old programming trying to reassert control. Let them pass like clouds. The fourth sign is relational. People around you may resist your healing. They may tell you it is not real. They may become uncomfortable or even hostile. This happens because your healing disrupts the role you played in their lives. They needed you to stay sick. Your wholeness threatens their equilibrium. Let them adjust on their own time. The fifth sign is permanent change. Within hours or days, you will notice the condition improving. Not gradually, not slowly, but suddenly, completely. And when it happens, you will know it was not luck. It was not coincidence. It was the method working exactly as Jesus demonstrated. If this teaching has activated something in you, comment the words, "The method works right now." Not for me, for yourself. Let it be your declaration that you are ready to step into the same power the early church carried for 300 years before it was taken from you. Subscribe to this channel because the teachings coming next go even deeper into what was hidden and why it is being restored now. Like this video so others searching for this truth can find it before it gets buried again. The church stopped teaching the method because they could not control it. But you are watching this video at the exact moment you are ready to receive it. That is not an accident. That is the method calling you back to what you always were. Whole, capable, free. Jesus never wanted followers who needed him. He wanted students who could do what he did. He said it himself. Greater works than these shall you do. Not because you are divine, but because you finally remembered the power that has been inside you all along. The question was never whether you could be healed. The question was always whether you were ready to stop being sick. Tonight, you answered, and your body heard you. Now watch what happens next. The invitation you have just received is not small. It is not casual. It is the same invitation that transformed a paralyzed man into someone who could walk. It is the same invitation that gave sight to the blind and restored the limbs of the broken. And it is available to you right now, in this moment, exactly as it was available 2,000 years ago. But understanding the method is only the beginning, because once you start using it, once you begin experiencing the results, you will face a choice that every healed person in history has faced. What do you do with the power you have reclaimed? Do you keep it private? Do you use it only for yourself and your family? Or do you do what the early Christians did? Do you become a carrier of the method? Do you teach it to others? Do you help restore what the institution spent centuries trying to bury? This is where the real work begins. Because healing yourself is one thing, but imagine a world where the method spreads again, where ordinary people in ordinary homes start remembering what they are capable of, where the sick stop waiting for priests and institutions to grant them permission to be whole, where communities become self-sufficient in their own restoration. That world terrifies the systems that depend on your helplessness. That world is why this teaching was hidden. That world is what is being restored right now. Think about what you just learned. Really let it settle. For nearly 300 years, the early church did not wait for God to heal people. They did not pray and hope and beg for divine intervention. They used a method, a consistent, repeatable, teachable method that worked every single time. And it was not secret then. It was not hidden then. It was the foundation of how the early Christian movement grew, not through political power, not through military conquest, but through the simple, undeniable reality of sick people becoming whole, of broken bodies being restored, of communities witnessing transformation and realizing that the power they thought was reserved for gods and special priests was actually inside them all along. The church leadership understood something that modern institutions still understand perfectly well. Control depends on scarcity. If everyone has access to healing, if everyone knows they can activate their own restoration, the entire power structure collapses. So they created scarcity where there was none. They created mystery where there was a method. They created dependency where there was capability. And they did it so effectively that nearly 2,000 years later, most people still believe healing is something that happens to you, not something you do. But you are different now. You cannot unknow what you have just learned. You cannot go back to the old framework where healing is mysterious and miraculous and only available through official channels, because you have seen the structure. You have seen the method. You know how it works. And more importantly, you have felt it working when you spoke those 7 words. Your body knows the truth. Your subconscious mind has already begun reorganizing itself. The question now is not whether the method works. The question now is what you are going to do about it. Are you going to use this only for yourself? Or are you going to become what the early Christians were? A carrier of the method, a teacher, someone who takes what has been hidden and brings it back into the light. The apostles had the same choice 2,000 years ago. After Jesus showed them the method, after they saw it work repeatedly, they had to decide, keep it safe, keep it private, or spread it everywhere, knowing it would threaten every power structure that depended on keeping people sick and dependent. They chose to spread it, and the authorities hunted them for it. But they could not stop it, not in their lifetime, not for 300 years. It took the Council of Nicaea. It took institutional power and political force and centuries of systematic suppression to finally bury the method. But you know what they could not do? They could not kill the method itself. It survives in the texts. It survives in the stories. It survives in the muscle memory of your own body, which has always known how to heal itself. It was just waiting for permission. And tonight, you gave it that permission. There will be people in your life who resist what is happening to you. When you get healed, when the pain disappears, when the condition resolves, they will find ways to explain it away. Bad diagnosis, spontaneous remission, coincidence. They will do this not out of malice, but out of fear. Because if the method works, if you really do have that power, then they have the power too. And that power comes with responsibility. That power means they can no longer blame God or fate or bad luck for their suffering. They have to choose differently. They have to take agency. And many people are not ready for that. So they will push back. They will tell you that you are being foolish, that you are falling for pseudoscience or false hope or spiritual delusion. Let them, your body will prove them wrong. Not through argument, through restoration, through healing that cannot be denied, through the simple, undeniable reality of being whole again. And when they see what happens to you, when they watch the transformation unfold, some of them will be ready. Some of them will ask how you did it. And that is when you share the method. That is when you become a carrier of what was lost. That is when you participate in the greatest restoration project in human history. This is not metaphorical. This is not poetic. This is literal, practical, physical healing that follows a repeatable pattern. The early church healed the sick for 300 years using this method. Sebastianus healed 11 people in a single night. The woman at the well, the paralyzed man at Bethesda, the blind man at Jericho, the demoniac in Gerasenes, all of them followed the same pattern. All of them were healed when they engaged with the question and claimed the 7 words. And all of them became whole, not gradually over weeks, completely, immediately. The only variable was their willingness. The only factor that mattered was their choice to stop being sick and start being whole. Everything else followed from that moment of decision. And now you have had that moment, you have asked the question, you have spoken the 7 words. Your body is reorganizing itself around this new identity. Your subconscious is receiving a new instruction set. Your cellular intelligence is being activated. This is happening right now whether you fully believe it or not, because the method does not depend on belief in God. It does not depend on belief in the supernatural. It depends on the basic, fundamental capacity of your body to regenerate and restore itself. And your body will do that. It is already doing it. All you have to do now is get out of the way. Stop monitoring. Stop doubting. Stop waiting for proof. The proof is coming. And when it arrives, when you feel the shift, when you notice the change, when the condition resolves, remember this moment. Remember that you did not need anyone else. You did not need permission. You did not need an institution or a priest or an authority figure to tell you it was okay to be whole. You already had everything you needed. You just needed to remember it. And now you have. Now you can teach others. Now you can be part of the restoration. Now you can help bring back what was taken. This is your invitation. This is your moment. This is what you were ready for when you clicked on this video.